Welcome to Mad About Money. I'm Maddy Alexander-Grout, and this is the podcast that is Mad About Money. I am here with the lovely Vivienne Joy, who is a mindset reset expert. That is a very big mouthful and hard thing to say, but I really like that title. Vivienne, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a mindset reset expert. I can say it because I say it all day, every day, I suppose. Yeah. What does that mean to the real world? Is I help people reset the stuff in their mind that's stopping them from progressing in life, in business, in money, career, relationships, health, every part of their life. And I specifically do that with business owners typically. And the way I do that is to help them understand what is in their belief map, what's gone on in their past, anything that's been traumatic, which could be tiny little things. They don't have to be massive traumas in the brain, but then put in beliefs that are not right, that are limiting and stop people from living their best self, being their best self. So I reset all that and then give them an empowered high performance mindset to go next level with whatever they want to do. And a load of skills in the middle of that around sales, marketing and business strategy. So the whole from, I can't do it, I don't know what I'm doing, right through to, ooh, I'm like a powerful selling machine and my business is making massive impact and I'm leaving a legacy in the world. So that is in a nutshell what I do.
Oh, I love that. That sounds incredibly powerful and incredibly motivating for business owners. I think everybody needs you in their pocket for sure.
I do. I think originally I called myself a transformation coach, but then everybody started using that transformation and it lost its transformative power. It's like empowerment. Like, you know, these are words that are really, when you do them right, you know, transforming parts of your thinking and your life and your behaviors and your feelings and thoughts are essential, because otherwise you're having the same old crap go on in your head. And it's the same with empowerment. If you're disempowered, you allow all sorts of things to happen to you. You're kind of in that victim space of, oh, it wasn't my fault, I didn't do it. And rather than the empowered mindset is making your own choices, making your own decisions and having the confidence and the courage to move forward. And those two things are really, really powerful, or very, you know, lacking in power if they're not sorted out. So yeah,
we're all guilty of that at, you know, certain times. You know,
people, you know, well, obviously government, we don't have much choice, and you know, the world, politics, etc., which I never talk about. But in our own lives, we let other people typically govern that, and sometimes it can show up as, oh, that person's got a massively successful business, I'll just do what they're doing. Or, oh, my friend, you know, this friend has been friends with me for years, I'll have to stay friends with them, even though they drain you of all your joy and energy. So we kind of keep stuff in our lives that we don't really need. And we stop ourselves from having the things that really would give us an incredible experience here, for fear of change, because the brain likes certainty, and the same for survival. That's what its job is, the unconscious mind. So help people to reprogram that unconscious part that says, oh, we won't do it, it's too scary, we'll stay all safe over here, and get them to be able to step out. And you know, my favorite saying is, fortune favors the brave. And it absolutely does.
It does. I love that. I love that saying. I really do. And it's so true as well. So thank you for that. So I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody on this show, and that is, what is your money story?
Well,
like, this is your life.
It is. It's a really big one, actually. I've got a massive money story. And actually, that fortune favors the brave is genuinely where my own empowerment point was, like, where you've had so much of the same and you just go, do you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm not willing to live my life like this. I don't mean I was stood on the edge of a cliff kind of, you know, we're about to take a whole load of pills, but it was like, I've got to do something. And that for me, and I remember it really clearly, was sitting in the office of my new business in 2012, so 11 years ago, with more debt than I could ever imagine. I had like £250,000 worth of debt and had no means of getting any money, and thought, how am I going to do this? Like, the desperation I had around starting that new business was because I just didn't have any money, and that is never a good time to be trying to make any decisions in that red state of desperation. Never make good decisions about anything in that space. And that had come about by being the only child of compulsive gambling parents.
Oh gosh.
My parents were compulsive gamblers, but I never knew it really until I then started to do the inner work on this, because it was bingo. And bingo is like an innocent little thing, isn't it? We go, there's everywhere now. It never used to be. Go and use the dabbers and play a few slot machines and play some of that kind of tabletop stuff where you pull the shutters or put the little. So, you know, most people listening to or watching this have probably been and played bingo or at the seaside. So it's an innocent sort of entertainment, family fun. No, it's not. It's hardcore gambling. And the way it's all set up is hardcore gambling. So, you know, what innocently was my parents going to bingo in the evening and taking me as a child, which years gone by you could. And I used to play on tickets and watch them win or lose. And just, you know, that environment I was brought up in, a bit like a child that had parents that owned pubs would be. It all became my normal. So I never really understood it wasn't. You know, my 18th birthday, I spent all day at bingo and all night. And I look back and go, yeah, I should have been out getting drunk with my friends, really, shouldn't I? That's like 18-year-old behavior. But so yeah, so I look back at that, and that, of course, then I always had the capacity to earn more money because I was spending a lot of money on slot machines. So slot machines became the thing. In fact, bingo became the not thing, and slot machines became the thing. So they've got the high reward, they've got all that kind of energy, that kind of that, you know, high adrenal energy going on with it. So if anybody's listening and they've got that as a problem, they'll probably understand what I mean. Always chasing the loss. That's how it works. So that kind of energy is really addictive. And I grew up like that. And then so anytime I had a problem, I used to think, oh, instead of, oh, I need to earn a bit more money, I'd go, I need to win some money. So my money mindset was wrecked. Like, I help people with money mindset now, as well as their home belief and their own kind of personality, everything about them, because mine was so bad. I didn't know, no. And you don't know what you don't. So I was just trotting through life, carrying on with this, you know, feast or famine. My paycheck had come in, it had all gone before I, you know, had a chance to think about it. And then I was back into overdraft, and that is how I lived my life for many, many years. That energy is horrible. It's really, can't afford it, not worth it, don't know how I'd get out of it. I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. And it got worse and worse, but I got better at sales. I got better and better at business. I got better and better in my job. You know, I used to, you know, earn £1 million for the company I was at, and I used to get big commission checks. And guess what happened to those? Yay! So I'd be able to gamble more and more. And I was really in this catch-22 situation of thinking that was the answer. And I look back at that version with lots of sympathy, and also lots of, what the hell, you could have bought Maldives Island with the amount of money you spent in casinos and bingo halls. Because of course that addiction grew up, that compulsion, that behavior grew up, and I was able to go to casinos and things. And so it turned from £50 in the slot machine to £1,000 in the slot machine in a day. So it all became very, yeah. Gosh. So how did the story change? I hear you say.
Yes.
So I did this, so from my 18th birthday right through to when I was 29, and my mum got diagnosed with terminal cancer. And that, I'm an only child, my parents still lived with me. It was like somebody giving me a death wish. It really hit me hard. So of course the gambling went off the chart, because when you use a compulsion and something bad happens, you use that compulsion, you add more into it. Started to have shopping compulsions, I started to drink a lot, I started to do drugs. It became everything I could do to get away from that situation. And then my mum died a year later, and my dad died 8 months after that. So for that, it was not my best time. It was my best time to create the next part of my life, though. So something had to give. I wasn't living a good life. I wasn't happy. I wasn't doing what I should be doing. I definitely wasn't my empowered self. I was in this horrible, you know, the energy of that is a horrible feeling. It's very solitary, you know, that loneliness that goes with that. And so, yeah, so I gambled everything until this time. I remember sitting in this office thinking, I can't do this anymore. I can't live this life anymore. I just can't do it. And I've got nowhere of getting any money. What am I going to do? So I saw an advert on the TV, and I reached out and I got an IVA, and that was the beginning of the end of that behavior for me, and a whole new set of patterns. I went through that whole kind of feeling of, oh God, shame of what I'd achieved or not achieved, or achieved the mess of not having. I'd earned a lot of money in my life, and I really went through that shame. But on the other side of that, once it was all sorted out, was no debt. Like, for the first time in my entire, even from a very young girl, having no debt. And I was like, okay, this is a fresh start, clean canvas, clean start. And that's what I did. And so from there, it was the rebuilding of my mindset around myself, because of course, coming from compulsive gambling parents, their focus was getting to bingo. And I'm not saying I wasn't loved, I absolutely was loved, but actually it gave me self-worth issues, because, and I remember a few being younger where I'd be really ill and my mum had gone and left me, and I was ill. And I look at that and now think, oh, I'm not sure that was the best parenting. I think that compulsion drove her, which I understand because it drove me too. So I kind of been able to put that to bed and understand my own self-worth in the world, and now help other people do the same. So, you know, it's given me my joy. It's given me, you know, my life. My name's Vivienne Joy, and joy is life and my business, and I hadn't had that, I wouldn't be doing what I do now, so I'm very grateful for it all. And so can I
ask a quick question before we move on to like the next part? When you got your IVA, what impact did that have on your life, apart from making it easier because I guess
because I mean, this is going back a lot of years now. I think it's different now, and I'm not an expert on this, obviously, and don't ever want to be. In fact, I never want to have the experience again. But actually, it meant I could only earn a certain amount of money. So it kind of really capped me. And I'm not the sort of person that likes to be held back in any way, be it in, you know, negative behaviors or positive. So I had to then pay back. So they kind of assess you, what your earnings are, what your outgoings are, like normal kind of day to day, a bit like bankruptcy, actually, similar sort of process, except they then agree with all the debtors a payment plan over a certain amount of years. And I think at the time, I can't remember what it was now, actually, but the payment plan was small because it was what I could afford, essentially, over 5 years. So then what happens is they have to then I think it's different now, they agreed the difference that they would write off, and then that would be me debt cleared, which of course I did do. So I worked my debt off. And that was really important to me. And I'm not suggesting bankruptcy isn't a good option for some people. And actually, there are some people, I'm pretty sure it is the right option. Again, I'm not this, but for me it didn't feel that way. It was almost like, well, you've got yourself into this, Vivienne, you're going to get yourself out of it as well. You're going to, you know, pay that price, essentially. That just felt important for me at the time, so I did. So I paid my way out of it. But the problems I had during that were things like I couldn't even get a mobile phone contract because your credit is on the floor. So I'd gone from being able to get all the credit, I had all the credit cards, all the loans, everything, and of course that all got wiped out. So I had to learn a new way. So the negative was I had no means to anything. And as an only child with no parents alive, and no other money source from anywhere, I bloody well had to go and earn it. I had to work out how to earn more money. And I had to work out ingenious ways to earn money as well, because it certainly wasn't coming from a job that I had at the time. So yeah, so I then started a business. That's what I say. So I decided I'm going to start a business, and I'm going to get really clever with money, and I'm going to learn money. And I did. And that's exactly what I did. So not that I'm a money coach these days. It's not about the physicality, but around the energy and the emotion and the mindset, more importantly, because the mindset around it. And I see a lot of business owners that are like, oh, I couldn't possibly charge that, or I've never earned that, or oh, it's all right for those people. No, there's a lot of stuff is all around your base levels of what you expect to be able to earn, or what you can save, or what you can achieve, or investments. And all these words are just not even really in the mind of most people. They're just living hand to mouth most months, including business owners. They start a business to just try and replace their salary, and some never manage it. In fact, they just end up 90 hours a week for way less than they were earning. So it's about actually finding the business model that's right for them, and doing it their way, enjoying it, and earning the money that they're worth, and understanding their worth. So
and that's so important. And
credit rating, Maddy, my credit rating was on the floor for a long time, and I think the IVA ran for about 5 years. Actually, I think I've got my dates wrong then, because I think it finished in 2012. Anyway, that ran for 5 years, and then I thought, oh, I'll be fine now. No, I wasn't. So that sits on your records for 7 years, actually, and only then, and you don't have to disclose it. So it was only then I could start to fix it. And of course, then the means to fix it are crazy for somebody that's had debt issues. So the way of fixing it, I was advised, was to go and get a credit card. I was like, are you kidding? Did you not see the mess I got myself into last time? But actually, so to be able to force myself to use it properly, pay it off, and use it, as probably a lot of people that don't have, you know, addictions and compulsions or money problems, to actually be able to do that. And so now, and that's where I sit now here in 2023. And I think I've got, in fact, I did use my credit card last month for the first time in about a year. Every now and then I have to use it, otherwise they get rid of them, don't they? And I think, well, you just never know. You can't go to America without a credit card. You can't pay for hotels and stuff, so you need them. So yeah, so I don't have any debt at all, apart from a car loan. It's the only thing I got, and that's only because it makes business sense. But so yeah, so it feels like a very different energy with money now. It's not around I can't afford it. It's very much a case of, oh, so you want a holiday, how will you earn it? And that's the kind of mindset.
Yeah.
happen. Not I'll get a second job, but for business owners, it's like, well, okay, you've got this massive talent and skill. Like, Maddy, you've got more talent and skill than most. Like, how can I maximize on helping someone else and then pay me money for it? How can it be a win-win for everybody? And that's really, that's important. That's important for me. Yeah. And it'd be stuff that you've thought of. Like, you could teach people how to do this stuff, I feel quite sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I do. But it's weirdly though, like, I feel like there are lots of other people that I do work with that I feel are better at some of these things than me. So, you know, my real focus is spending addiction. So, you know, I've been there with you on that spending addiction journey, and getting back to a place of normality. So, you know, I was going to ask you, like, how do you feel about spending money now? Is it a case of, because you've earned it and you've worked out how to earn it, you don't feel guilty around that spending? Because I think there's a thing where when you're a recovering spending addict, I know for me, for years, whenever I bought anything, I would have this guilt. I'd feel such bad shame about buying new things. But now I've got a system that works for me, so I don't feel guilty about buying things. So it's nice.
Well, because my spending addiction, which I've never really thought of it in that frame, but I suppose it was spending, but it was more wasting. It was more about wasting. It was more like getting rid of it, like I wasn't worth it. When I look back at that part of me, about, oh, I want nice things. I wasn't spending it on handbags and shoes and cars and things. I mean, actually, I probably was.
That's what I was. Yeah.
It was never about that. So actually now when I spend money, it's never about that at all. In fact, I think of money of, oh, so that's £500. Oh, so that's a couple of client sessions. So I'll think of it in terms of how I earn the money as to how valuable it is for me. So I never really had that because I wasn't spending it on things to buy for myself. So I never had guilt. I was just wasting it. In fact, I had a hypnotherapy session along my journey of sorting myself out, and I'm an NLP master and trainer, and NLP was a big part of my transformation, a big part of my own mindset reset, understanding where all my beliefs and behaviors were coming from, and they weren't my fault really. It was my fault when I realized I had them to carry them on, but at the time it's like, no, I was taught this behavior, I learned this behavior, I learned how to waste money, I learned how it wasn't enough, you couldn't spend money on good food because we needed it for bingo. I learned how to not spend money on myself and to waste it. So but yeah, I had a hypnotherapy session. I remember the guy, Greg his name was, and he said to me, so how much money did you spend in a slot machine yesterday? I said £400. I mean, we're going back some years now.
Wow.
So this was the day before the session, and I arrived at the session and I was buying a set of sessions with him, and I said, how much is it? He said it's £400. It was very clever of him. I mean, I feel quite blessed. And he got this money, and he said he had £400 in front of him, and he laid it all out, and he said, this is the value of £400. And he said, and what else could you do with this? And he went through a whole session with me that wasn't hypnotherapy, that was talking therapy, which is what I do essentially.
Yeah.
What else can you buy with this £400? And I just sat in, because my brain had not connected the two things together, and it was like, God, anything. At the time I could have bought a holiday. I mean, can't now, but at the time I could have bought a week in Tenerife, you know, quite easily. And I was like, I could buy those boots that my friends got that I really love. I could buy my mum a birthday card. It was like, and all these things that I could spend this money on. And so he really beautifully built the value box for me of the purpose of money, because money has to have a purpose, no matter whether you're a manifestation coach or whatever you're doing it doesn't just arrive for no reason. So actually, yeah, I don't have that guilt, because now I just think, oh, I just almost remember go, wow, that £30 you just spent used to be like 30 presses on a slot machine. Look at the difference. You just had an amazing meal with some friends and some drinks and whatever I've done. So actually it's worked the opposite for me, and that's how I keep myself reminded. But also I look at that version of myself, and she wasn't happy, and I don't need to escape parts of my life. And that my addiction, gambling addiction, was escaping parts of my life. And I've been taught that coping mechanism from a young age, much as some people are taught smoking or drinking or drugs, or one of my friends has it as an exercise addiction. I'm like, I wish I'd had that one. I really do wish. Goes to the gym twice a day is your coping mechanism, but she's got problems with her knees and her back, you know, she's got different problems. So, you know, we shouldn't be doing anything to excess. That's the whole point. There's nothing in our life, because if it's excessive, it's compulsive, and if it controls us, we have to control it, and that is not a good energy for your life.
So true.
Relationships, money, health, anything, it should all just be quite natural. So yeah, don't know, does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. And I'm assuming now that you don't gamble at all.
No, well, actually, I say that. I think was it the Grand National last year, and I won. So I think we put it. Well, my wife said, "Oh, let's have a flutter on the horses." So I wouldn't even know how to use a betting app. So, and I won on a 50-1 outside, and I won about 300 quid or something. Which
Oh, wow. You've just reminded me about my 11 quid's winnings from this Grand National.
I completely missed this one. About the odd scratch card. I do the lottery actually, so that just comes out my bank. They don't feel like gambling to me. I suppose it's about your. It's a bit like if you were a spendaholic and you spent it on shoes, maybe trainers wouldn't have the same feeling as Louboutins, like they're just different things. It's around the strategy in your mind as to what's different and what isn't. We all have rules around everything. That's, we call them strategies in NLP. We have rules about everything. And so it never sits. So even if I was to put tenner in a slot machine in a pub, it doesn't have the same feeling for me. It was always this collective of lots of slot machines, and it's the energy, and I'm on my own. So there's a whole load of rules around it. Whereas actually, if I was with somebody in the pub, it's not the same energy. So yeah. And in fact, my 50th birthday in October last year, my wife arranged for me to go to bingo. So I haven't been for years, and we had a great time, and we won. So I definitely don't have it anymore because I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in a different light, so it has a very different energy to me.
You see, I always think about this and think about addictions, like that the only addictions where like you go to like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, where they're like you have to cold turkey it because you can't ever do it ever again. Whereas like with a spending addiction, like and this only kind of came to me the other day, and I find it really interesting that you can't stop spending money because otherwise you don't function as a human. So it is about kind of what can you spend money on that's not that addictive shopping pattern. So for me, it's all about making sure that I don't have any cards linked. So I don't have cards linked on anything. Like at all. So Amazon is unlinked. I've even recently unlinked my Uber because if I sit there and I think, oh, I'll get an Uber if I'm going to go to the pub or whatever, or I could stop being lazy and I could walk 5 minutes down the road and get a bus. And then I go, okay, and actually, if I get a bus, it's going to be 2 quid. If I get an Uber, it's going to be 8 quid. Then I choose the cheaper option. So having like nothing linked, and it's a pain in the bum. So if the kids are like, oh, mummy, can we have a McDonald's? They're like, let's get it delivered, and I'm like, no. Getting a McDonald's delivered is way more expensive than us driving to McDonald's to go and pick one up for you. So let's drive to McDonald's and go and pick it up. And actually,
yes, I don't know how you got out of your spending addiction, whether you had therapy or coaching or whatever, or you just did it yourself.
No, I did it myself. And actually, but I swapped all of my spending habits for cheaper ones. And that's what I still do. And that's my coping mechanism.
What you did without realizing it, clever, by the way, well done, is scrambled your. So you scramble the pattern. So for example, the easiest way to explain this to anybody listening is, say you're a smoker, and I used to be, so 20 years ago I used to smoke. I wouldn't dream of smoking now. I haven't been there, so I knew I could give things up, I could stop things. But actually, if you were a smoker, you would scramble the times you smoke and what you smoke and how and who. So you start to scramble the pattern. So what you've done is said, oh, we can spend money on a McDonald's, but you can't have it delivered. You can go to the pub, but you're not going by Uber. So you scrambled the pattern. But actually I would normally have a cigarette on that roundabout, I'll go a different way so it doesn't trigger. So what you've done is you've turned down the trigger and also then scrambled what happens. So you're giving yourself, if you look at all the addictive, and I do a lot of this compulsion strategy work, is you give a little break in it. So it's like just a moment to think, just a moment to change, and that's what yours is. So that's a moment of, oh, I've got to go and get the credit card, or I've got to go and get the thing. That moment of, oh, I'm getting out of that addictive energy and feeling, oh, actually now I'm not going to. So,
and that's exactly what I did with what I did with smoking as well. So I used to smoke, and my break, I guess, was getting pregnant. So I mean, a lot of people
the whole time she was pregnant with me, so I don't think that works with all women.
My mum smoked the whole time she was pregnant with me as well, and I think that's probably why I got addicted to smoking. Bless my mum if she's listening. Hi, mum. but for me it was like I need to prioritize the health of my child, so I stopped smoking, and then I did go back to it after I had a child, but only sort of like very very occasionally, like if I went out for a drink or whatever. It was more kind of like a social smoking thing. And even now, I'll still have like maybe one if I go out with the girls for a night out, because like all of my friends smoke. But I'd never go back to it, because that was me breaking that cycle. And actually, that it's really interesting talking about that breaking of the addiction cycle. Because I was speaking to a lady the other day who was an alcoholic, and when I spoke to her, she was drinking a pint, and I was just like, yeah. So I was like, oh, I thought when you were an alcoholic you have to stop drinking. And she was like, well, just kind of supposed to, but my alcoholic addiction was with whiskey and with vodka and with gin, and it was all spirit related. So if I go to the pub and I have a beer once a week or whatever, that's not an addiction. It's not that kind of and I don't think people kind of think of addiction in that way, do they? But
they're all just patterns in the brain, Maddy, all of them. We call it addiction just to summarize the kind of behaviors around it, but all it is a pattern. So it's the same with everything. You can have positive patterns, like there'll be a pattern that you have when you get up in the morning, you know, whether you how you brush your teeth, drink tea, get dressed. Like, we have patterns, and we can intercept those patterns at any time with the right help. That's what I do, Mindset Reset Expert, is intercepting them patterns, putting in better things, taking out the rubbish things. And that's the same with our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors. Every part of what we do is just a pattern. They're called, any therapists watching this, they're called schemas. So there's schemes of what we do, schemes of ways of. So for example, like my brain has to have a pattern of what I do with a cup. So I lift it up, I keep it in my hand, I put it to my mouth, I drink it. It's a scheme, it's a pattern. Otherwise, my brain would have to try and work out every time it saw a cup, what the hell is that? What's in it? What do I do with it? What is this? What in front of me? Is it dangerous? So that's when you watch a child learning, a
scary
baby.
cups.
Well, it is. When you see a baby learning, you see it's dangerous. It's like trying to work out, it's putting its scheme together of what's safe, what's not. That's basically what the brain's doing the whole time. So now I know this is fine. If there was steam coming off it, my schema would go, oh, that's hot. Don't touch that yet. Don't drink that yet, because that burns your mouth. So it'll trigger a new scheme. So all we're doing is triggering new schemes the whole time and adding and putting layers on top of old schemes. So that's what I talk about, the beliefs value set that goes with your life. There's just loads and loads of beliefs or schemas that you just imprint continuously all the time. So when someone says, oh, but it's true, no, it's true because you've made it true, because you believed it back when you were 7. You know, believed you were, I don't know, lazy, and now you've imprinted that for the whole of your life. So consequently, it stands, it stands in good stead for the whole of your life. So that's my wife behind us.
Hello, wifey. You can be on the next one.
She's a dog behaviourist. She does with dogs and people that the same as I do with money.
I'm not sure dogs have the money thing, but yeah.
You know what? People spend a lot of money on dogs.
They do. Oh, and do you know what? I've literally just got a partnership with somebody who is, they're launching a discount card for pet owners, so that they can save money on all their doggy things, which I think is amazing. Like, it's so needed. So anyway, that's another story. But so what is next for you in your journey?
Well, what is next for me? It's a very good question. So I think I've just added really the next part, which is, so I've had a lot of clients that have worked with me for a few years, new level, new devil, as they say. So every time you move a shift in your life, be it, I don't know, in your relationships or your business especially, you have a whole new set of mindset challenges. And actually, a lot of clients who really wanted to give back to the world weren't quite sure. They've done a lot of life. There comes a time when, believe it or not, it's not about money. It's not about money. It's about impact. It's about value. It's about feeling good. And there's a certain age, I think, that hits us at, and we're all a bit different. So I launched last year, I launched She Coaches. So it's my program to help women to become mindset coaches and do what I do. So that's paying forward my own skill, my own techniques, my own methodologies, as well as all of the NLP stuff that I'm trained to the max to do, and anything that's coming new. So creating, there's only one of me, so I can only ever do as much work with clients as I can. Like, I've only got so many hours, I can't, you know, I've recreated time. So actually teaching other people how to do that and supporting them on that journey to be able to then create a mass of people that are able to do this deeper structure work, to really get into the nitty gritty of what's going on in the mind and reprogram it. So that's been absolutely joyful. Probably I come off of those sessions teaching these and watching them have their own breakthroughs and their client breakthroughs, like, it just makes me emotional, like that euphoric kind of overjoyed, I call it, actually.
Oh, love it.
So growing that, really, I'm running a new cohort of that in September this year, and I run 2 cohorts a year. So that's how it's going to, you know, that's how it's going to grow, and I'm going to grow my network of my own coaches. So that's very powerful. And then I should just continue with the work I'm doing with helping people build their business, because when someone has a massively good idea that's going to change people's lives, it could even be like 10 people's lives, but they don't know how to do that. And that's where my power is. I've been in business for most of my life, really, you know, homegrown as part of the dot-com revolution when it happened. So I know exactly how to help people do that, and in their own way, not like, you know, just here's the structure, here's off you go, but it's actually what's right for you, what's right, what do you enjoy, how are you going to enjoy building that business. So yeah, I should just carry on doing that, really. Yeah, so I intend to celebrate the end of my 50th year, because I didn't really do my 50th birthday, but yes, a nice holiday this year apart from that.
Nice.
Yeah, nice, and probably a bit more, obviously now we've come out of hopefully COVID times, running some more live events I'm launching in June, so that kind of more entry level for people to try coaching. It's called Coffee, Cake and Coaching, so they can come and in person and understand what coaching is, and connecting with themselves really, and what their real issues are to start with, to then be able to move forward. That's the future for me. And
Amazing.
probably no more dogs, because we've already got 4, so I know
that's quite a few.
It's a lot, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It's too many, actually, if you ask me. 4 is a lot. Yeah, if there's only 2 humans in the house, so yeah, no more than 4.
They're actually not, they're nicer than kids, because at least they don't answer back. So like you're kind of at that stage where like fur babies are great. I love the fur babies. Expensive though, they are still expensive.
One Eddie, our 3-year-old, he's 3 next month. He's on the 1st of May, actually. He's a Maltishon, so he does all that. He does all the really chatty. He's proper lippy. Yeah, he does talk to you completely. And he's taught our 6-month-old Chalky to do the same, and she's not supposed to do that. So that's
cool.
Oh yeah, she does all the things he does. So that's what I say about how you learn. You know, you create these schemes. The dogs, watching dog behaviour is exactly the same. It's fascinating. They're just learning from each other. So yes,
we've only got one, and he's like, I mean, he plays really nicely with the kids, but I think it'd be nice if we got another one. When we get a bigger house, I think the plan is to get another one. But it's been so lovely to have you on. Where can people get you? Where can people find you? What are your channels?
Well, obviously through you. So the links that are on your app and on your services. If not, you'll find me under Vivienne Joy. I'm Vivienne, as in the French way, E-double-N-E, and Joy. If you Google me, you'll find me everywhere. Apparently, I'm everywhere. That's what somebody said to me this morning. You're everywhere. I was like, oh, that marketing stuff works. So yeah, I've got a couple of, so vivienjoy.com. I've got She Enjoys, which is my kind of legacy building, not for profit. So you'll find me there. And Mindset for Business is my book and my programs and my coaching, you know, higher level kind of coaching programs. So Mindset for Business, and that is available on Amazon as well. Hang on, let me just show it to you, just in case people. Hey, that's my eyes.
Oh, that's pretty. Oh, I love it. Very nice.
Business. So that's an NLP based self-coaching book around getting your mindset for business. So very much for people that are struggling. So yes, thank you for asking.
Oh, well, it really has been great having you on, and I'm looking forward to seeing you about in the app and all that exciting stuff. So for anybody who is listening to this podcast in the Mad About Money app, you've clearly come to the right place and you know exactly where it is. But if you're listening to it outside, somewhere in the ether of like the internet, so YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music, make sure you download the Mad About Money app. It is free to download. It is the social finance education platform, so come and get it. I'm Maddy Alexander-Grout. This has been Mad About Money, and we will see you next week.